All right. Yeah, let's jump into it. Well, welcome everyone. It's so good to spend the afternoon or the morning with you, wherever you are dialing in from. We're going to jump right in and share a little bit of the agenda for today's conversation around Electives memberships. My name is Jason Lavender, one of the co-founders here at Electives and CEO. I am based in Boston, and then I'm super grateful to be joined by my colleague Maggie, who leads our learning experiences team based in Colorado. So the two of us are going to walk through three different items here about electives, access to learning, and administrative tools. So that's the agenda. We're going to keep it pretty conversational as you can make a webinar. And then we'll leave plenty of time at the end for questions. So we'll dive right in. So for folks who are new to electives, just wanted to start with a little bit of our why. So we started the company about 3 years ago, really with this idea of changing who we get to learn from at work and what we get to learn from at work. My co-founder and I had sadly experienced some pretty bad trainings at our prior respective jobs. They weren't really human. They were very much kind of click buttons, watch videos, and take quizzes. And we really wanted to bring a more human dynamic to learning at work. We actually named the company Electives because those were the classes in grad school that we couldn't wait to take. And we really wanted to give off that kind of vibe in the corporate training space. So everything we think about is humans learning from humans. And one of the lines that we always talk about is how do we build training that people will love? If it's not something people will love, it probably won't make it onto our platforms. We really want to make sure we're delivering experience that people look forward to and they seek out and they want to come back for more. As we talk about our learning experiences, we've had these interesting conversations with HR leaders, people leaders, L&D leaders, DEIB leaders over the last couple of years. And what's been interesting about it is a lot of times as we brainstorm what types of classes to bring to companies, there's usually this question from the company of should HR or the people team decide on all the classes for the whole company is usually option one. Then there's a little bit of a question of, well, maybe we'll let team leads actually decide on the learning. And then option three is let's actually let the employees decide on what they want to learn, both personally and professionally. And the more we dig in with our partners, we've realized that the sweet spot is actually all three. There are certain areas of content the whole business should be taking, and it makes a ton of sense for those classes to be offered at the whole company level. There's obviously some courses and content areas that team leads, and they want to make sure that their team gets that access to that learning. And then lastly, there is always times when employees want to learn something that is very unique to them. And so today's conversation is really about that bottom circle there, which is the employee-driven learning, and how the recent launch of Electives membership is really trying to make it easy to scale that personalized learning for employee decision-making. Why do we think about employee decision-making? But we've asked this question quite a bit with our friends in HR, and we say, like, what do your people want to learn? And everybody always kind of laughs and they're like, it's different all the time. And everyone has their own unique needs. And so you can see here, there's all these different people in the background representing your entire company. And you can imagine, one person in a given week really wants to improve their presentation skills. Another person is super interested in the future of AI and wants to dig in there. Another person may have just been promoted to a manager level and they were an amazing IC, but now they're starting to struggle with giving feedback, difficult conversations, and goal setting. And so every single person is different. Every single day, week, and month is different. And so as a people team, as an L&D team, number one, understanding how everybody's feeling and what they're needing is challenging. And then number two, actually being able to source in any given moment all of that different types of content and types of learning is really, really challenging. And so with that has led us to launching Elective membership. We launched this earlier this summer. And what Electives membership is basically trying to personalize live learning at scale, but trying to prevent the heavy lift on the side of HR people and L&D teams. So it's a subscription-based program. We launch new classes every single month from really unique instructors, which Maggie will walk through in a second. And we really put employees in the driver's seat. They get to pick the classes that they want to take, and you get all the feedback in terms of what they're taking, who they're taking it with, and how they're liking it. So that's just a quick tee up on electives and why membership. And Maggie, I'll turn it over to you to walk through how it works and what we've been learning.
Awesome. So in a lot of these conversations, people ask, all right, this sounds great. Obviously, I believe in learning for all of my employees, but what does this actually mean? How does it work? What's the nitty gritty? To take a step back, one of the reasons why I joined Electives is Jason and I, in the early days, talked a lot about democratizing learning, that it shouldn't just be executive leaders who get access to, award-winning authors or Harvard professors or these like keynote speakers when they go to events, that everyone should get a chance to learn from really awesome people. And so through Electives membership, it's exactly that. We have instructors who are FBI hostage negotiators, first woman to ever hold a leadership position on a Navajo Nation tribe council. We have, like I said, historians, professors, Navy SEALs, doctors, and also just folks who have been leaders for impactful companies who want to share their best practices. So essentially, every single month right now, we schedule about 20 classes a month. And if your employees have a seat, they log into their Electives account and get to choose what class resonates with them. So maybe they just had a conversation with their coach about, hey, like you need to hold your team more accountable. They take a class on accountability, or like, hey, I'm really strapped. I don't feel like I can take on all this work. And they take a class in the productivity space. So this is just a snapshot. We've sort of categorized our Electives membership classes into 5 groups: manager skills, productivity, collaboration, innovation, and well-being. There's a lot of other categories that are kind of intersectional and woven in there. For example, there's DEI topics that have to do with manager skills, where we think those are critical to leading well. So there's more to it than this, but we want to keep it a little simple. So they go in, they pick a class that fits for them. This is an example of some classes they might see. A couple months ago, we offered origami just to kind of see if people wanted a break. And we got a really good crew that said, like, I'm smiling again. This was really relaxing. And then we have folks who really lean more towards classes like how to build a strategy, leading effective one-on-ones that are super tactical. Something that we are really leaning into right now on the product side is, what do you actually get after the class? So how do you continue accessing this information? How do you interact with the content? This is just a glimpse of what post-class pages are going to start to look like, where you can see the recording, you can unlock learning content, post-class learning content, links to resources, instructor follow-ups, etc. The feedback that we've seen from Electives membership learners is definitely why I am excited about doing this work right now. Like, we have basically seen a show up rate of 70 to 80%. LinkedIn Learning is a 3% utilization rate. So the show up percentages are very, very encouraging. Like, we think that people like it when there's a time that's blocked off in their calendar, when they know that they're going to be learning something, they can build their day around that. They know that they're going to be, able to talk to and ask questions of an astronaut, and they show up for that. So it's been really exciting. We also ask our learners about their outcomes. Like, do they actually think that their views or behaviors are going to change from this class? And 93% right now are saying yes. We also ask if we think it's going to be a long-term change, and 89% say likely or strongly likely. Really quick, kind of some big picture things that we've put together just for this webinar that we're seeing in membership. Leadership and manager classes have been really popular, so we're doubling down on that, creating leadership and manager tracks within membership where people can get badges, certifications. We're seeing seriously deep connection in breakout rooms. I had a learner tell me, hey, I don't really talk up in the private classes when it's all people from my company, but when it's people that like are from other companies, I feel kind of comfortable sharing challenges that we're having or experiences that I'm having on my team, because like no one knows me. And I'm not worried about offending, my manager, or like offending or speaking out in front of the people that I manage. So that's been sort of a cool takeaway. And then just the level of vulnerability and connection happening in these classes is is real. They feel very human. We want our instructors to share stories and create a space where learners can do that as well. I think that the word of mouth is spreading and contributing to that high utilization rate and show up rate that we're seeing from class to class. Some just exciting admin features that we just wanted to share, sort of know, all right, if my team is doing this, how do I actually know if it's working? What am I going to see? The first is you can recommend classes for your group. So we've heard different things, like some leaders want to upload a CSV, tell their employees that they can take these classes and really never do anything with it again. Other leaders say, well, I want to request specific classes for my team to take based on our needs or our focus areas, and you can do that in the platform. The next thing is admin reports, so you can see how many people are using it, what they're rating the classes across the whole, how many people are, what percentage of people are staying in class for the duration of the class period, how many hours, unique classes that are being taken, etc. I think it's neat to see, you know, if you have individual contributors that you didn't know were engaged or didn't know were interested in leadership, and you see, you know, Michelle has taken 7 leadership classes, it's a great indicator to you that like she is interested in that. So you can get a sense of what your employees want and need. You can see across months how employees have utilized, get a kind of, this is like a way to get a little bit of a pulse of how folks are feeling, bandwidth, engagement, etc. Typically employees who are more engaged will do things like this more. Same with utilization by topic. So what topic areas are most top of mind for your team? Another very real way to get sort of some pulse culture data on your workforce. The 2 features that I am most excited about are these badges that I mentioned. So if, for example, an employee takes 5 manager classes over the course of 6 months, they get a manager badge. This is something that you've seen people starting to share on LinkedIn, in email signatures, across social media. These are starting to matter to folks. They want this type of artifact when they do something. And so we are answering that call with what I refer to as tracks within the membership lineup. And then the last thing is, what gets me to go to a class oftentimes is if I know someone else is going to be there that I like want to chat with and work with, or I just talked to my direct report about how to build a strategy, and there's a class called How to Build a Strategy, and I want to go to it with her so that we can develop this deck or this strategy together. So you can invite other people in your org, or you just have a good friend who you want to spend more time with. This is a cool way to do that. So those are our admin features. I'm super excited about a lot of them and definitely eager to hear your feedback and questions.
Thanks, Maggie. So you can tell we're super excited about membership. It's just this really unique opportunity to finally kind of give employees that choice and let folks sign up for the classes they want to take. Speaking of classes we each want to take, we thought it would be fun for Maggie and I to just share our favorite classes. So our whole company has been enrolled in membership over the last 5 months. The expression we often use within the company is we like to drink our own champagne. And so we're all taking classes every month and getting to pick and choose what we want to take. And just thought it would be fun to highlight some of the amazing instructors that we feel really fortunate to have learned from. So I'll go first. I'm happy to share. It was hard to narrow it down to just one, but I'll share one that was kind of a surprise for me, to be totally honest. So I took a class 2 months ago, and it was a poetry workshop, and the instructor was just incredible. He really uses poetry to basically help people tell their story. And it was just one of those classes that I didn't go into the week thinking I wanted to take a poetry class or that I needed to learn poetry. But the connection I had with folks who I felt like I knew and folks who I had never known before was incredible. Folks had, bravely read the poems that they created in a 60-minute class out loud. And it was just amazing. So for me, it was one of those surprises that I didn't expect to be so engaged in it, but it was just incredibly powerful and a really great team building experience. There's a bunch of others that I'll skip for the purpose of time, but Maggie, what's been your favorite class so far?
Cool. Yeah, a class that stands out to me is one that is called like design thinking in business. And I think probably close to 10 years ago, I feel like design thinking became this really big buzzword and it sort of trickled down. But we have a innovator named Prop Deja who teaches this class. She led innovation for Ford. And when you meet her, you wouldn't necessarily guess that she works at a Ford F-150. Like, what would you improve? What would you release as a new feature? And people say things like, more horsepower and faster speed or like better gas mileage. But then she shares this whole customer client based learning process that they did at Ford, and they followed truck drivers around and realized that a lot of truck drivers are taking naps in their car before work if they get to the site early, or they're eating meals in their car. They are taking Zoom calls from their car with their laptop, and they created just all of these functionalities to respond to what customers actually need, which when you hear it, it sounds so obvious, but it's really like nails down the why behind talking to your user. She's very engaging and just, I think, like endearing and smart, and I loved learning from her.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Maggie. I am going to stop the screen share and we'll dig into some of the questions. So we have a few kind of tactical questions just in terms of logistics. So how many classes can people take each month, and are they always live? So I'll hit the first one first. Yes, they are always live. To Maggie's point earlier, we just find engagement to be significantly higher when it's that one-time opportunity. We know that some folks may not be able to make it. So over the course of the months ahead, we'll bring back certain classes and offer them again in case somebody wasn't able to make it. But all the classes are live. And then every employer kind of works on a different path. I would say the most common number of classes per month is either 1 or 2. We do have some clients who want to offer unlimited classes to their team. But we still see the typical, even with unlimited, it's still pretty typical for folks to take, no more than 4 classes a month. Even though it's great learning, it can be a lot of learning if you take too many classes.
This is the question I get the most, but will you just talk about sort of how we think through pricing and sort of number of seats, or if a company wanted to offer this to a group, or like isn't ready to offer this to the whole organization?
Yeah, we get that question quite a bit with our partners, is like, who should we roll out membership to? And I'd say there's probably 2 or 3 typical answers that we've shared. And again, it's totally up to you in terms of the goals that you have as an employer. The first option is a lot of folks just roll it out to their whole company. So they give everyone the same access to learning. We love that. It's not just a senior leadership team getting access to learning. Every single person at the company gets a membership license. And that's incredible. So that's probably the number one path or approach. The second approach that we see is usually some group or subset within a larger organization. Common examples that we hear are like, I want to give membership licenses to every new manager. So any person who's become a manager in the last 12 or 18 months. Another one we hear is like everyone who's in an employee resource group. Another one we hear actually is like everyone who's recently joined the company in the last year. So folks who are just kind of getting into the culture. So just depending on the size of the company and the goals, we see all employees or subsets of employees. Another tactical question. So how many people are in each class, and how far in advance do people learn about the classes? Both great questions. So as far as how many people are in each class, I would say the typical average is somewhere between 15 and 40. I know that's a decent range, but we will actually put a cap in the enrollment process. So for certain classes, we don't want that class to be 150 people and feel like it's a webinar where people can't participate. We really want it to be a pretty intimate setting where folks, can ask questions. So we'll toggle that based on instructor preferences. We did have a few folks reach out to us a few weeks ago asking to be snuck into a class, which we've been known to do, but only a few folks here and there. And then the other question, just around how much advance notice do you get? We're experimenting with that. So going into November's launch of classes, we're going to test actually releasing those classes on October 2nd to basically give people a full month to enroll in the classes that they want to take. And then we have reminders built in and calendar invites and all kinds of good notifications to just help people remember to enroll in a class and attend class day of.
I can take this final question about sort of how do you decide private class versus just enrolling people in membership. Obviously, we are incredibly biased and we think that these two products complement each other really well. So what we've seen is like, if you are trying to create connections on your team and like want some team building, you don't actually have to have a class that is on team building. There just needs to be like genuine interaction and connection and meaning made across people in a class on any topic, right? Like if you want your team to feel more motivated, you don't necessarily need a class on motivation. Like you just need an instructor who's motivating. And so for things like that are more internally culture building aims, or you have a slightly bigger team and you're like, look, this is going to be mandatory. I need everyone to take this. Obviously, a private class is perfect for that. What we see as being really appropriate for memberships is like, you have a team, they all have really different needs. You wish that you could choose 100 classes that everyone takes. You know that's not realistic. The networking effect in these classes, because they're live and often discussion based, is really real. So, you know, we have some small startups that have like plugged in right away, and then employees get to talk with people from Amazon Robotics and Zynga and Puma and Therabody and Target. So getting that exposure to people from other companies is a serious value add. And if you feel like your team needs that exposure and opportunity, memberships is a great place for that.
Thank you everybody for joining us today. It's been really, really powerful seeing connections being made. We love sharing this with folks. We also love brainstorming and just thinking about different ideas as it relates to learning and development within organizations. So if anyone has any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. .io. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll talk soon.